What if the unthinkable happened? What if the United States, one of the most powerful nations in modern history, lost a world war? How would such a catastrophic defeat shape the world we live in today? Let's dive into this alternate history scenario, exploring the potential consequences, global shifts, and the ripple effects of a U.S. defeat in either World War I or World War II. First, let's consider World War I. The United States entered the war in 1917, tipping the balance in favor of the Allies. American troops bolstered the Western Front, and American industry provided the supplies necessary for victory. But what if the U.S. had failed to make an impact or been defeated outright? Without U.S. intervention, the Allies might have been unable to counter the German Spring Offensive of 1918. A German victory would likely have resulted in a vastly different peace settlement, one more favorable to the Central Powers. Germany might have retained its territorial gains and established itself as the dominant power in Europe. The harsh conditions of the Treaty of Versailles, which fueled resentment, and the rise of Adolf Hitler would never have occurred. But Europe's political landscape would still have been fraught with tension. For the U.S., a loss in World War I could have eroded its emerging status as a global power. Isolationist policies, already strong before the war, would likely have deepened. The economic boom of the 1920s, driven in part by post-war recovery and international trade, might never have materialized, leading to an earlier and possibly more devastating economic depression. Now, let's turn to World War II. The U.S. played a pivotal role in defeating the Axis powers, both through its military might and industrial capacity. But what if the U.S. had lost this war? Imagine a scenario where the Japanese successfully hold the Pacific after Pearl Harbor, or where Nazi Germany achieves dominance in Europe before the U.S. can fully mobilize. In this alternate history, the Axis powers might have divided the world into spheres of influence. Germany, having defeated the Soviet Union, would control most of Europe, parts of the Middle East, and possibly North Africa. Japan, with the U.S. defeated in the Pacific, would dominate East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. The Americas could remain under U.S. control, but isolated and weakened. The loss of the U.S. would have grave implications for democracy and human rights worldwide. Nazi ideology, unchallenged in Europe, could have led to the extermination of entire populations on an unprecedented scale. Japan's imperial rule would have expanded unchecked, imposing harsh occupation policies across Asia. The global balance of power would shift away from liberal democracies, with authoritarian regimes dictating the course of history. Domestically, the U.S. might have fractured under the weight of defeat. The unity forged during World War II could have crumbled, leading to political instability, civil unrest, or even secessionist movements. The economic engine that powered the war effort would stall, leaving millions unemployed and deepening the effects of the Great Depression. A defeated and isolated U.S. would struggle to maintain its identity as the land of the free. Technological advancements might also have taken a darker turn. The Manhattan Project, which developed the atomic bomb, might have fallen into Axis hands, giving Germany or Japan a monopoly on nuclear weapons. The space race and technological competition of the Cold War might never have occurred, leaving humanity decades behind in scientific progress. Culturally, the defeat of the U.S. would reshape global norms. American ideals of freedom, individual rights, and democracy, often promoted through its post-war influence, would give way to the values of the victorious Axis powers. Art, literature, and media could reflect a world order that glorifies totalitarianism and suppresses dissent. The long-term effects of a U.S. loss in either world war would likely include a slower recovery for the world economy and delayed decolonization. Without U.S. leadership, movements for independence in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East might have faced even greater resistance from colonial powers. The global institutions that emerged after World War II, such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and NATO, might never have been created. leaving the world more fragmented and prone to conflict. Ultimately, a U.S. loss in a world war represents a chilling alternate reality. It highlights the fragile nature of history and how easily the trajectory of the world can change. The lessons of such a scenario underscore the importance of resilience, unity, and the determination to safeguard freedom and democracy.